Here we go. So then we will kick it off. So as for the agenda today, what we're talking about, we are going to do a quick introduction to Mass CEC for those of you who aren't familiar with us, followed by going a little bit more into the program that we are working on, the Medium and Heavy Duty Mobile Charging Solutions program, and what kind of spurred this webinar today. Then we will talk about what mobile charging is and the definitions that we have come up with as a result of this program. We'll talk about the different use cases, and then finally we will pivot to our mobile charging panel, where we'll hear from representatives from Exos Trucks, Danner, and Levante, and they will tell us more about their mobile charging solutions. They'll each have about 10 minutes each. And then finally, again, we will have that question and answer portion where we'll have my colleague Claire help moderate that chat. So please continue to put your questions in the question box throughout the presentation. Okay, so who is Mass CEC? Mass CEC is a quasi-state economic development agency dedicated to accelerating the growth of clean energy and climate throughout the state of Massachusetts. We support investment in early stage climate tech companies and cutting edge research. We also support the deployment of large scale offshore energy, including offshore wind turbine projects. We further support workforce training from clean energy career awareness to upskilling workers already in the industry. And finally, we support adoption of existing clean energy technologies in homes, businesses, vehicles, and on our electric grid. And this is where my team sits, the Clean Transportations team. We sit within the Accelerating Decarbonization department. Second. Okay, so where do we get our funding, and like why was this a topic that we decided to focus on here at Mass CEC? So we got the funding for this program from the Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Coordinating Council, also known as EVIC. And in 2024, the EVIC awarded Mass CEC $38 million to increase access to charging infrastructure for various sectors. Out of that big pot of money, the Medium and Heavy Duty Mobile Charging Solutions program received just over $5 million to deploy mobile charging. EVIC identified mobile charging as a promising technology that can help fleet owners electrify without the need for immediate large-scale investment in charging infrastructure, which we will talk about a little bit more about what that means in further slides. Okay. And then a little bit more about the program itself. So the program, for those of you who don't know, is called the Medium and Heavy Duty Mobile Charging Solutions Program. The program will accelerate the electrification of 4 medium and heavy duty fleets through the deployment of mobile charging stations. Currently, the program is fully subscribed or fully enrolled, so we're just letting you know what the program does. We have 4 fleets still in contracting phases, and so we'll be figuring out what solutions they choose shortly. But the program itself does fund the mobile charging deployment, as well as provide supplemental funding for EV procurement for fleets who have the need. The goal of the program is to increase access to mobile charging and reduce barriers to EV adoption for medium and heavy duty fleet owners and operators in Massachusetts. And we'll talk a little bit more about what those barriers look like in a future slide. But also for fleets that are not in the program, we want to publish resources that can help fleet owners and operators to implement mobile charging in the future. So the first resource that we have come up with is the Mobile Charging Technology Inventory Report, which all of our panelists are part of. And so that helps fleets figure out what mobile charging solution is right for them, and also figure out who are the players in the market. And so we'll talk more about that because that is the whole reason for this webinar series. Okay. Second. So what is mobile charging? So this is a very new space, especially for Mass CEC. And so we have found in the creation of this program that we really needed to make our own definition of what mobile charging means to us and what we were looking for in this program. So for us, mobile charging refers to any type of semi-permanent off-grid and grid flexible charging solution that can be disconnected and transported between locations. The first type of mobile charging under that umbrella is called mobile charging. And that refers to charging units with smaller footprints that can typically occupy like a parking space and can be disconnected and transported between EV charging locations. The second category under that is the semi-permanent charging. So those are charging solutions that require direct grid or generator connection, and these units are not readily relocatable. The third definition is charging as a service, or CaaS, and it delivers on-demand and scheduled charging solutions for fleets with the supply, installation, and management of mobile charging units operated by the service company. Again, all these definitions can be found in the technology inventory report, and also we'll learn about them firsthand from our panelists and by seeing what kind of charging units they offer. Okay, and then I have just a couple more slides before I kick it to our panelists, but fine, I just wanted to go over what barriers mobile charging addresses. And so we have done some research in the area and have other programs that have focused on medium and heavy duty electrification in the past. And so they have identified specific problem areas that can be addressed by mobile charging. So the first is charging station right sizing. So mobile charging can help folks figure out like how much power they need, where they actually want these charging stations if they're more permanent to be installed, things like that. Mobile charging is also good if considering facility upgrades and infrastructure delays. So mobile charging can provide temporary solutions to ensure that vehicles remain operational until charging stations are energized, or they can be a more permanent solution if that's something that folks decide to go with. Then we have facility ownership structure. So mobile charging stations can provide a temporary or longer term solutions for fleets unable to install permanent infrastructure due to lease agreements. And then finally, we have grid and or space constraints. So mobile charging can be really beneficial if the grid in your area just doesn't have the capacity at the moment and it's going to take too long to get the capacity up and running, or if at your depot there's just not enough space. And then finally, I just wanted to talk about the decision-making tree that we have in the technology inventory report. So for fleets who are very new to electrification and want to explore mobile charging solutions, this will help you figure out what type of mobile charging category you might fall into. And so I have that all linked on the side there as well. And hopefully you'll get a little bit more clarity once you hear from our speakers. Okay. So our panelists here today are Alden Shank, who is the Director of Mobile Charging for Xos Trucks. Then we have Matt Meyer, who does Sales and Business Development at Danner, and Chris Angelou, who is the CEO of Levante. I think Matt might be having some technical difficulties, so I just wanted to let everybody know. We're starting with Alden. We were going to go with Matt and then Chris, but it might be Chris before Matt if Matt's still having some technical difficulties. Okay, so without further ado, Alden, please take the stage.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. And big thanks to the CalStart team for inviting Xos and me to participate here. Devin, I feel like that was such a good presentation. You covered all the use cases. Like, I feel like I can just hand the mic over to whoever's next and go from there. But
Oh, your turn to shine. You got it.
okay. Well, thanks, everybody. It's so nice to meet you. You can go to the next slide if you like. So I'm Alden, like Devin said, I work at Exos, and Exos is a manufacturer, and this is the main product that we make. It's 100% electric commercial delivery vehicle. This is a Class 5 step van, and you can imagine the types of companies and fleets that use this vehicle. So this is kind of our bread and butter, but when we were selling this vehicle to lots of different fleet customers, kept running into a lot of the same challenges. So you can go to the next slide to capture those. And many of you who are on this call are probably aware of many of the challenges that fleets run into. Oh, okay, I don't know if the next slide is possible. There we go. Yeah. So if you're a fleet and you've been thinking about starting your journey to electrifying your fleet, you've probably heard about a number of these things, or you've encountered them firsthand, right? Like it can be a little expensive, it can take a while, and once the chargers are in the ground, they're kind of in there, and often there isn't any sort of energy buffer with permanent chargers. So we were running into these challenges with our customers who are buying our vehicles. We thought, we really need to come up with a solution to help our fleet customers in this way. And next slide, and that's why we came up with our mobile charger.
One
A little
second, I hit
spotlight
the
feature.
wrong thing. Sorry.
That's okay.
Well, maybe I'll fix it. There we go.
There you go. Yeah. So this is the Exos Hub. So this is our mobile charging station. Um, it is a metal box on wheels. It can be on wheels or off wheels. It has batteries on the inside and a bunch of power electronics, and it has 4 integrated DC fast chargers. So that is essentially what the system is. I do think it has some things that set it apart. For one thing, the whole thing is made by Exos, which means that it has a smaller footprint than some other mobile chargers that you might find. And it also just means that you have one company to call with any sort of support issues or anything like that. But this is basically it. And a lot of the use cases that Devin touched on are directly applicable to this product. And it's a lot of what we found with the challenges that our customers are running into. So I can speak a little bit more to that. But yeah, feel free to go ahead to the next slide. And Devin talked about, the 3 categories under this umbrella of mobile charging. There's mobile charging, right, where it can be transported from place to place. There's semi-permanent, where you kind of leave it plugged into the grid, and then there's charging as a service. And what's pretty neat is the Exos Hub has been used in all 3 of those applications. But I'll just share the 2 main deployment scenarios that our fleet customers, or that a fleet in general that has EVs, would typically use. So this is the first one, which is kind of lined up with that mobile charging. You basically have the hub, you charge it up with the site power that you have, and that can be a lot less site power than what you might need for permanent EV chargers. So you charge up those batteries, and then you basically take the hub to wherever your vehicles are domiciled or wherever they're operating, and you charge those up, and then you bring the hub back and you shuttle it back and forth. So that's one way you can do it. And then the next slide shows you a different way, which is, oh, sorry, you can go to the next slide. There you go. This is where you just leave it plugged in. So this is kind of similar to that semi-permanent deployment style, right? Where you just leave the hub plugged into either your AC site power, or if you happen to have a DC fast charging station, you can take that one DC fast charger and turn it into 4 chargers, because the hub has 4 chargers built in. So it's almost like a power strip in that way. And this is actually how we've seen a number of customers deploy the hub, because the batteries on board act as storage. So it's almost like a water tank, right? Like you can be filling the water tank, but then at the same time draining the water tank to charge your vehicles. So we've seen a lot of energy throughput in this type of deployment. So it just kind of depends on your fleet needs. Like, how many vehicles do you have? How big are the batteries on those vehicles? How much dwell time do you have? Do you have all night to recharge your vehicles, or is it, just a few hours here and there during the day? So depending on what your scenario and your needs are, we can figure out the optimal sort of deployment scenario. But yeah, you can go for it. Thank you. So I wanted to show that the hub doesn't have to be on a trailer. Like if you've got a site where you kind of just need it to stay put, stay plugged in, don't need to move it very often, you could definitely deploy it like this. Or the trailer like I showed earlier. You can go to the next one. It's also a little hard to tell scale on this, but the hub itself is about 11.5 feet long. And so about the size of a single parking space, like Devin mentioned. This is the hub. It's just shown from one end. And so you can see where it has two chargers, charge cables coming out of the top on this end, and then on the other end, there's two more. And then you can also see on this end, those colorful connectors, that's where your AC input would go in from your distribution panel, or like in an emergency situation, like maybe you have a diesel generator or a microturbine or something like that. And then up at the very top in the middle is where if you had a DC fast charger, that's a CCS1 inlet. So lots of different ways to power the hub, and then you get those 4 DC fast chargers to your vehicles. Yep, next. So I just wanted to touch on and maybe build on what Devin was sharing about some of the common applications of a mobile charger. These are things that we found with the fleet customers that we've worked with, including, our vehicle customers, but also not our vehicle customers. It's actually, we've sold the hub to lots and lots of fleets who are not our step van customers. So the main one here is stopgap charging. Like if you're a fleet and you're like, we know we want to get EVs, we know we want to get permanent chargers installed at our site, there might be a little bit of a wait for that, right? Everybody's kind of doing this at the same time. Utilities are trying to keep up with that demand, but it just takes time to upgrade switchgear, takes time to do engineering and site planning. So, if you've got a 1 or 2 year wait time, which is not uncommon, you can drop the hub in, and basically your wait goes to about like 1 or 2 days, right? So because you're basically just having an electrician putting in the receptacle, charging the hub, and you're good to go. So as a stopgap or interim solution, that's one of the main things. But property constraints are another one that we found out about. We didn't even think of it when we came up with the hub, but people came to us and said, hey, we lease our property, or we know we're leaving this facility in a year and a half. We don't want to put permanent chargers in. Or like sometimes we've talked to city governments who said, hey, we built this site over a landfill. We actually can't trench because of site contamination. So all of these reasons, they're related to the property. They might be a case for having just a charger that sits on top of the property. Remote power is essentially like, hey, if you had a work site or you just wanted to charge somewhere where there isn't grid power, you could bring the hub out there. If you need it for longer term, you'd probably pair it with a power generation system. Backup power, grid goes out, keep your EVs running with a mobile charging station. Already talked about stationary or semi-permanent. And emergency response, this is one that I didn't realize, but it's actually kind of complicated to tow an electric vehicle for most electric vehicles because of the regenerative braking. You can't just tow it behind a vehicle. You tend to have to put it onto a trailer. There's also the optics of that, right? You don't really want to show EVs being towed around. So great, you got a mobile charger, bring it on out, charge the vehicle back up, get it back to base, and you're good to go. So these are just some common ones. There's definitely lots of other applications. Devin touched on that, but just sharing ideas of what we've come across. So you can go to the next one. I'll just leave this up for a few seconds. But if you want the one pager, this will take you to a PDF of the hub. And then my contact information is down there for anybody who wants to follow up. I think CalSTART will have that stuff too. But easy enough for you to get follow-up information. The next slide, and I'm almost done here. Just wanted to mention that we have a few other models or variants of the hub coming out. So this first section, we're basically going to have like sort of a Goldilocks, right? Like different, like small, medium, large that are coming out early next year. And then very likely we'll have some that do an even faster output charge. Maximum output charge on the current hub is about 150 kilowatts. And the current energy capacity of this hub model that we have now is 280 kilowatt hours. And so we'll have, some different sizes to choose from coming pretty soon. And then I wanted to mention as well that we have this like sort of diesel generator alternative that we're developing. So it won't be a dedicated EV charger. It'll be more focused on really versatile, flexible energy storage and power supply. So all the different like NEMA plugs and twist locks and cam lock connectors that you would find on a diesel generator, we will have on a zero emissions energy storage system. That will also have bidirectional capabilities. So it has implications for turning your fleet of EVs into maybe powering a building or something like that. So we're excited about that. That'll be, mid next year that we'll have that available. And I think that's it. Yeah, I just had some specs. Oh, sorry about that. The little spacing was a little wonky when I transferred to PowerPoint. But these are specs. Again, I'm happy to provide these. These are all going to be in the one pager for the hub if you're interested. So that's it. Yeah. Oh, these are charge speeds. Again, I can provide this information as needed.
Great. Thank you so much, Alden. And if you
Yeah,
don't mind just hanging around for the Q&A at the end.
sure.
Um, so Matt is from Danner and he's still having some technical issues. So we are going to have Chris go next. So just excuse me while I go through these slides. And just so everybody knows, Matt might try to call in later. So we'll see how that goes. You'll just have to bear with us. But in the meantime, Chris, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Devin. Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Angelou, co-founder and CEO of Levante. I'm excited to share with you Levante's groundbreaking transformational above-ground charging solution today. If you go to the next slide. Oh, actually, one before that. That's it. Okay. So as you guys probably know, traditional in-ground infrastructure poses significant challenges, including high costs and complex installations. Every site is bespoke. You can go to the next slide. Our fleet solution alleviates these problems, delivering scalable, repeatable, elevated EV charging tailored for fleet operations. You can go to the next slide. Our design significantly reduces the amount of trenching required, which I'll show you in a moment, up to 90%. So this slide shows a comparison of installing at a large fleet site between in-ground and the Levante solution. The top is a traditional in-ground solution, and the bottom is our solution. Our system installs in a matter of days, not weeks or months, if you were installing in the traditional fashion. You could imagine the limited amount of infrastructure, resources, labor, and costs to install these systems. You can go to the next slide. Our system is modular and scalable. It supports both grid-tied and non-grid-tied generation. The solution is extremely flexible. It can support mobile, semi-permanent, and permanent charging. The Levante solution future-proofs fleets as they transition from internal combustion to electric vehicles. It makes sense to consider non-grid tied generation when you're first starting out. However, at some point, the decision is probably going to be made to install permanent infrastructure and tie into the grid. With our solution, you have your infrastructure if you choose to go that route. You don't need to install the infrastructure if you start with a mobile generation solution, and then you want to go to a permanent grid tie solution. You already have the infrastructure installed, and you can expand it with just sections of our pillars and our canopies. You can go to the next slide. We require only one trench from the power source to the first pillar of the Levante system. And then we carry all the electrical components in an overhead canopy. The chargers are connected from fusible bus plugs overhead. The other thing about our system is it's charger agnostic and software agnostic. It can accommodate level 2 and DC fast charging. And the system can be easily installed and is modular, allowing for simple scaling, modifications, or redeployment to another site. Oh, okay, so the slides were a little bit mixed up there, Devin. So if you want to go to that one, I'm not sure how that happened. So I apologize, which is why I was jumping around. So we have an on-street charging solution as well that can go right against the curb, so you're not losing that 6 to 7 feet with your bollards and foundations. It easily integrates into urban environments, offering convenience and accessibility. Can you go to the next slide? Okay, and how about the next one? Okay, so I guess they got a little backwards. So this was the first slide, guys. I apologize for this. So this is traditional in-ground infrastructure that poses a lot of challenges, including high costs and complex installations, which every site is bespoke. Can you go to the next slide? This is where I was talking about how the system can be grid tied on the right or non-grid tied on the left. We can use mobile charging generation and tie into our first pillar, and then it completely electrifies our system. And the system is put in with helical screw piles in place of concrete foundations as an option, making the system completely mobile and removable and relocatable. And it scales very quickly and easily. So as you're expanding your fleet, you can continue to add on to the system and either tie into the grid or bring in more mobile generation to keep your operations flowing without shutting down your operations. I think that's very important to note. With our solution, you're putting in your infrastructure, whether it's temporary or permanent, and you never shut down your operations or disrupt it because we're only working in one area at a time. You can go to the next slide. And if you can just go back to the value proposition. So just to end on this note, guys, our value proposition highlights significant advantages over traditional methods. It's including 20% less costs, 40% faster for installations, 90% less trenching, and 60% less carbon. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thanks so much, Chris, and apologies if something got lost in translation when we shared those slides. That's not great. I apologize for that. We are going to try to get Matt on the line. He's going to call in via phone. I believe he's here, but I don't know if we can promote him to speaker. So Claire, how has that been going?
I just promoted Matt. So Matt, can you hear us?
He's muted. Let's see. Matt, just remove the mute and you'll be ready to go. Okay. Well, seems like we still might be having some technical difficulties. So I'm going to.
Hello.
Oh,
Hello.
Matt,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Wow, that was a fun half hour trying to solve how to just jump in and participate with you. So yes, I am here. I apologize for the technical difficulties, surely on my end, and but I'm happy to be here today. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so if you want, I have your slide deck, so I can try to go through as I hear you talking, but yeah, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, so I've got my slides on my end. So when I ask you to advance the slide, we'll just see if we can stay in sync here. So first slide should just be a picture of the mobile power station, bottom right corner, in kind of its base form. So, and then that's our new plant in Indiana. I say new plant, that's a couple of years old now, but that's in Muncie, Indiana, near Indianapolis. We've been in business for more than 15 years. Actually, you can advance to the next slide, and that will kind of tell a little bit of our history. And I won't spend much time here, but this is what we started with. Gary Danner grew up on a farm, worked in heavy equipment, and he set out to create a configurable work vehicle to do all of these different types of work tasks like you see here. And we still do all of this. All of this is still available through Danner and is available on the mobile power station. But if you go to the next slide, this is kind of what happened as we were working through development. More and more, we began to get inquiries about, hey, instead of all the configurable work and putting a bucket on and a scissor lift on, what we really want is more batteries. What we'd really like is fast charging. What we'd really like is more and more powerful distribution options, because we have needs for mobile charging or for supporting a microgrid or for resiliency and backup power. So this whole second half of our business has really emerged over the last 4 or 5 years, and it's become really a core of what we do. So this business then, this power side of our business has developed to you can go to the next slide for me, into the mobile power station as really a mobile distributed energy resource and battery storage, capable now of carrying our units that will ship in 2026 will carry upwards of or up to 800 kilowatt hours of stored energy on board. And you'll see in my last slide that actually it says 500, so that's just a recent change. We've gone to a new battery supplier for us, domestic source, that we're very excited about. And so what we're able to do then is to deliver this mobile power in a variety of ways for distribution, and we're talking today about fast charging. So with a couple of fast chargers on board, we can deliver and bring the charging where it's required. So we don't have to be palletized. We can take this off-road. We're all terrain in a drivable form. So particularly in cases where you need to get someplace remote or you need to move that charging asset around to support like a work site, which you'll see in a slide in a second, it's just an ideal solution. Next slide. So specific to charging, again, up to 800 kilowatt hours on board now, so a tremendous amount of stored energy available. And then we can put fast chargers on board. As you can see a picture there at the bumper. Our new system is actually, they'll be dispensed from the side, but a couple of guns. Standard would be 120 kW. We can enhance that to a 180 between the two chargers. A level 2 charger also comes standard on all mobile power stations, so that would also be available to be used concurrently as the fast chargers. So you can save all the time and cost of infrastructure. You can kind of bring this in as a solution until you're trying to figure out where to best put your fixed assets, and then as that project is planned and executed, then you can have charging available, immediately, on site. Next slide. This is just, again, specific to what I believe this conversation is really central. When you think about a large construction site and you've got workers on site with EV pickups, and you've got excavators and wheel loaders that are transitioning to electric, to have the flexibility of being able to move your power around and move your charging around the job site as required versus taking assets offline is tremendous cost save and time save. And then again, the nice thing about having the MPS out on a job site like this is it's not just a charging asset. It can continue to do the the work tasks and a lot of the bring value in a lot of other ways to a project like this as well. So last slide is just my info, and again the pictures and a little bit dated there because again we are just announcing our new batteries supplier that we're very excited about. So there's the short on the Danner Mobile Power Station, and again just excited to have a few minutes to share with you and happy to answer any questions.
Fantastic. Okay. So thank you so much, Matt, for working with us through your technical difficulties. And thank you everybody who is attending for also working and staying with us through the technical difficulties. I just want to open it up now for Q&A. And so Claire Hazard, who is a program administrator on this program, is going to help make sure we get all those questions answered.
Thanks, Devin. All right, so our first question today is, are you familiar with any schools or transportation providers in Massachusetts that are currently using mobile chargers at lots that they lease instead of own? And maybe for this question, we can circle back to Alden first.
Hey, so I don't know of any specific schools in Massachusetts, but I will mention that we have one customer partner, Highland Fleets, who has purchased an Exos Hub unit, and they've deployed it in a number of different areas around the country with some of their school district customers. And it is served when like regular chargers go down or when they're waiting a few weeks for those chargers to get activated by the utility or something like that. The hub has been brought in as sort of a temporary charging solution. They are talking about maybe increasing the number of units that they have so that they have more flexibility, can do more of that charging as a service, or stopgap charging. So yeah, sort of a roundabout answer. No specific school districts that I know of, but we have a school district partner. I guess I'll mention one other is that we actually have a school district in Northern California that is using the hub units as well. They have a whole bunch of electric school buses, and I think the hubs will be used to charge those buses, but also they have a lot of like support vehicles like sedans and electric trucks and stuff like that they use, and the hub will be used to charge all those things.
Great, thank you. And I'll open it up to Chris and Matt in case they have anything else to add before we move on to another question.
This is Matt from Danner. My response is very much like Alden's. I don't have any specific answer specific to a school system in Massachusetts. But where we found success is like we have out west have a school system that is transitioning their fleet of a couple hundred school buses to electric. And as they bring more buses online, there's always that tension between chargers online to support the electric buses. And so it's always easier to add more buses, to add more chargers. And so we kind of fill in that gap. We step in and we're able to be that asset that is enabling them to expand and grow as those buses become available, or then if chargers that are going down for service, that there's additional assets on site to support that fleet as it's transitioning over about a 10-year window for that particular project.
Yeah, I would just agree with both Dan and Alden on those points.
Great, thank you. We have another question from our audience. Could you please talk through the cost comparison between using mobile charging infrastructure and installing fixed charging infrastructure? Maybe we can start with Chris for this question.
It's a great question. I think it depends largely on the site and the scale, right? But typically, when you're looking at traditional in-ground infrastructure, it's a tremendous amount of trenching that's involved and resources and time and coordination. So the costs are quite high. When you're looking at mobile charging solutions, they're very readily available, easily deployed, and they're offered in different forms, whether it's a lease or as a service, as Alden had mentioned. With the Levante solution, we come in and we kind of are the connective tissue, right? So we work off of mobile generation, like Alden's solution as an example, or tied to the grid. So it allows you a lot of flexibility when you're off grid, but obviously when you need to make those decisions ultimately, if you're scaling your fleet, is that going to be sufficient to operate, to have your operations? Because operations is where most of your cost is going to come in after the infrastructure is in place, whether it's mobile or it's permanent, right? And just from the Levante solution perspective, we kind of allow you to do that transition to non-grid to grid tied or stay off grid without having to do any of that underground infrastructure.
Yeah, if I could add to that, I mean, one of the things I appreciated Chris mentioning in his presentation was that every charging infrastructure project is bespoke. And we actually used to do some regular like charging infrastructure projects for our vehicle customers. And we just sort of got out of that game because it's really challenging when everything is different from site to site. Like the site layout's different, your mix of vehicles is different, your operations are different. And so it becomes this custom thing every time. I think, we have a product line of one currently with our mobile charger. It's going to be the same pretty much every time, right? So there's like a simplification that happens with it. I also think, in addition to the project costs that Chris mentioned, there's also like the energy buffer aspect of it too, where rather than demanding power all at once, which could be during peak demand periods of your day when utilities might charge a little bit more, if you have an energy buffer, you can basically program your mobile charger to be like, well, we only want to draw power from the grid whenever it's less expensive. And so that's another way that you can save on it. And I'll just share, like one of our customers that has like 10 of these Exos step vans, they're in the parcel delivery business. They ordered one of our hub units. It's their sole charging solution for those 10 trucks. And they were like, okay, this is a temporary thing. And we're just going to, it's going to get us through until we can get permanent chargers in. And like 3 months later, they're like, you know what? We're not going to do the permanent chargers. We're just going to keep using this thing because it's working fine. We've got an operational schedule worked out and we're good to go. So it's kind of saving them on a lot of those larger infrastructure costs. So obviously it's going to be different from fleet to fleet, but just mentioning that that's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, I'm gonna just chime in this, Matt, again, and just agree with Chris and Alden there. You've got, the question was what is the cost, cost difference, but I think the real gains, there are some, in some cases, Chris just mentioned this, there are some cases you have to start trenching and doing some things the cost can be really significant, but the value of the flexibility that mobile charging brings and the opportunity to squeeze that window from flash to bang. We're going to do this project. Okay, how soon before it's operational? The mobile charging solutions, really any of the solutions that you've heard today, can condense that time to bring charging available just much more quickly and efficiently. So, yeah.
Thank you. All of that is very helpful information regarding the cost comparisons with temporary and permanent infrastructure. I have another question for all of our panelists. Someone asked, can solar be integrated with these systems? So why don't we start with Chris again?
Yes, so our system is very much ability to be integrated with solar, either on the canopy or solar carports that we build off of the canopy, and as well as battery storage, both internal and external to the system can be connected as well. So it really gives you the ability to connect a lot of different power sources to our system.
Yeah, again, I'll just chime in and concur. The opportunity to work with solar is certainly available for us. One of the considerations, Chris just kind of mentioned this, is that you'd want to, ideally, you're bringing enough, you have some battery storage that's going to bring enough juice into that battery so you can transfer it kind of at speed. That would be ideal. You're going to want to have the one system or the other is going to have to probably a microprocessor to just manage that handshake and the transfer of the energy, but we can certainly work with that.
I checked with our engineering team about this pretty recently because we got this question at a recent trade show conference. And if you had an existing solar array already, I think there would need to be a couple hardware changes on the hub to just make sure it was compatible. But we also actually identified a partner that manufactures like a modular solar panel array that could be like different sizes depending on how much power you wanted to generate from that system. And that would be plug and play with the hub. So no hardware changes needed. So it just kind of depends, like if you already have a solar panel array installed, or if you were looking at putting that in place as well.
Thank you. Another question for all of our panelists: are the units waterproof or weatherproof, and do the charge times vary based on the outside temperatures? We can start with Alden since he's up on the screen.
Sure. Yeah, the charge times and even overall energy capacity will fluctuate with ambient temperatures. So if it's super, super cold, you're just not going to get as much juice. It's going to take a little bit longer to recharge that, but that's true of high voltage batteries, right? That's going to be true of your EVs as well. And then also in like super hot temperatures, the hub has internal thermal management system, right, to try to keep it in that optimal temperature range. But if you're in Death Valley and it's like 130 degrees out, yeah, might not get as good of functionality, or the hub might even actually just shut down just for safety reasons, right? So yeah, those are definitely things that would be considerations. In terms of like weatherproofness or anything like that, yeah, the hub is designed to be outdoors, so it will prevent water ingress and things like that.
Danner Mobile Power Station is the same. Alden said it well, so I won't re-say it all in terms of the hot and cold. And yeah, we're designed to be, an off-road, outdoor, piece of equipment. So no problems there.
And the Levante system is completely weatherproof.
Great, good to hear that all of these systems are prepared for various weather across the US, especially Death Valley, mentioned by Alden.
One clarifying thought, maybe just to help the folks in the audience understand a little bit more about how cold weather impacts charging rates. Maybe we can speak a little bit to that, since we are based in Massachusetts and it will be cold relatively soon. So if anyone wants to talk about that, I'd appreciate a little bit more background for folks.
I thought I saw Matt come off of mute, so I want to give him a chance if he wanted to.
No, you go. I was, my comment was simply going to be, I think Alden said it pretty well. I think it's going to vary, and you're going to get fluctuation in cold especially. And I think it would be probably, we'd be throwing darts a little bit if we were to start throwing numbers of what temperature and what the difference is. That situation is going to vary a little bit, situation to situation. But you're certainly going to see some impact there.
Yeah, I just completely agree with that. It's going to be like a scale, right? Like the colder it gets, the less efficient the battery system is going to be able to run. So if you were really interested in like seeing an idea of that scale, like that's something we could ask our engineering, or I could ask the Exos engineering team about to get you a sense of it.
Great, thank you for entertaining my additional question.
With our non-answer.
All right, I have one more question for all of the panelists. Are the mobile charging units noisy at all, perhaps due to fans running to regulate battery temperature? And does that vary with how much energy is being drawn from the unit?
We actually install a stereo system with massive speakers on the hub, just to like keep your neighbors happy, play opera all day long. No, I mean, I think it's a totally fair question because I think a lot of like mobile power generation systems, right? Like think of your traditional diesel generator, like, yeah, it can be pretty noisy. It's definitely quieter than that, but it's not like silent. So I guess I'm just speaking about the Exos Hub. Yeah, it has internal fans. It has some moving parts inside, like contactors that will engage. And when it's up and running, especially if you've got all 4 charge heads going, like you can definitely hear the hub is operating, but it does just sound like fans, because that's essentially what's going on. So it's not like crazy loud. We've had a lot of people say like, oh, it's so much quieter than, the generator that we have or something like that. So I guess it's all kind of relative.
Yeah, and the Levante system is not a generation, it is actually infrastructure. So it works off of mobile generation. So if it's batteries, there is no noise at all. Our system does not generate any noise whatsoever. So the answer to that is no.
And the Danner system is going to be, I think, generally quiet is, again, the best way to say it, because depending on how much it's been running and what the temperature is, yeah, you might have a cooling fan kick on. The MPS has a full hydraulic system on to support the work attachments and all. So, but there is you can just with a switch, with the push of a button, turn off the hydraulics to not have that pump running. If it's going to be used just in power mode, it's going to be essentially quiet. Again, I think Alden said it right.
Great, good to hear how the noise levels vary for the various units we've spoken about today.
Claire, can you like get a little closer or something? You're a little low.
Oh, apologies.
Perfect.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I have a couple more specific questions for Matt on the Danner unit. First off, for the Danner construction site example, did you say that the Danner unit present not only provide charging for equipment, but also perform work themselves?
Yeah. So if the first slide that I put up there, we can put a universal work arms and put a bucket on, or pallet forks, or a trencher or auger. Again, we were designed initially. At first, we were designed to do that type of skid steer type of medium duty work. So on a job site, to pull and push and to carry materials around and deliver product, to sweep and to dig holes and to scoop dirt or gravel. We could have a configuration that could do have that work functionality and still have, say, 400 kilowatt hours on the back deck and a couple of fast chargers to do the charging. Sure. Yeah.
For you, Matt, does the Danner mobile charger get towed to a job site, or does it have its own propulsion system?
So the answer is both. It would get, if you're taking it to a job site or you're taking it over the road, yes, you're going to trailer it up and drive it there. That way you're going to trailer it there. Once it's on site, though, it is self-propelled and can drive itself around. So think of it like a piece of heavy equipment, or, you know, when you see a farm tractor going down the county road on the kind of on the shoulder, you know, that's how the MPS is designed to drive. It is not something that you put a license plate on and drive through town.
Great. Thank you for answering those more Danner specific questions. Lastly, Alden, I saw that you answered this in the chat, but I just wanted to bring it up again since we have a few extra minutes. See if you have any more information you would like to add, but someone asked, does Exos have a rental or a rent to own option?
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, we're a manufacturer. We want to make stuff and sell it. I mean, that's kind of our typical model, but we will do a lease. We tend to do at least a minimum of 6 months. Otherwise, you're kind of getting into sort of the short-term rental or short-term lease, and that's a little bit of a different business model than what we have. However, as I mentioned in my comment, we do, you know, like a short trial. Like if you're just wanting to test it out, make sure it works for your team, works for your vehicles, things like that. We're like happy to set that up with you. And then if you needed something kind of like more ongoing, where you knew it was only going to be like a 3-month project or something like that, we have a charging as a service partner that has like some of our units, and so we can help in that regard as well. So.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much. And thanks, Claire, for hosting our Q&A. And thanks again to our panelists, Alden, Matt, and Chris, for taking time out of their day to tell us about all these different mobile charging options. I just wanted to let the audience know we are having a round 2 of this next week with different charging OEMs, where you'll hear me talk for the first 10 minutes, and then I'll kick it off again to our panelists. After that, we will have another webinar with a date that's TBD in November to talk about mobile charging case studies for those who are interested. And then that in the spring of next year, we will talk more about the different fleets that are in the pilot program. So you'll get to hear some firsthand knowledge. So thank you again, everybody. We really appreciate it, your time, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Yeah. See ya.